Hello. Or should I say, hello one and all, and welcome back to another episode of Dimension 20 Live Review and Recap. Or, I mean, it shouldn't really do that. It's not mine. It's not another episode, it's the first episode. It's a rocky start. This past weekend, I went to see Dimension 20 Live in London. I was there for the first night, April 20th, and I thought, well, hey, why don't I give a little recap and review of my thoughts and what I saw. And so for anyone who might be going to Dimension 20 Live in the future, I think this current tour is going to be wrapped up by the time I have the chance to get this video out. But I might have my dates wrong, and also I think they're going to be doing more and more live stuff in the future because, well, a little spoiler here, but it was a blast. So I'm going to give my thoughts on the format as a whole and my thoughts on the production and the crowd and all of the sort of overarching non-spoiler type stuff that I can do in the first bit of this video. And then I'll talk with some more specificity in the second half about the show that I specifically saw for anyone who's curious about that. It's never going to happen again because that's sort of how improv shows work. But, you know, it was fun. It'd be fun to share, so. I'm going to preface this up front by saying I don't think that the show I saw is going to be in any way related to The Gauntlet of the Garden, which is, I believe, the next show that they are just planning. I also know there was a little bit of controversy around that, and I don't know anything more about that than a lot of people, especially the people who actually bought tickets. I know that Dimension 20 and Dropout has addressed that already. Again, I don't have any, there's no insight into that here, so if you're going to that or want to go to that, this won't help. I apologize if you're looking for insight. This is just about the show that I saw. So, Dimension 20 Live. I saw the tour called The Time Quangle, which I think needs no explanation. Everyone knows what a quangle is. I stole that joke from Brennan and then delivered it poorly. There's no excuse. This show, or tour rather, was for the UK and Ireland, and I believe that's it. It was the original cast, so it was everyone from the original Fantasy High Run. That's Lou Wilson, Emily Axford, Brian Murphy, Ali Beardsley, Siobhan Thompson, and Zach Oyama. Yeah, Zach Oyama. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk first the broad strokes, my experience when we got there without any spoilers. First of all, crowd was electric. I mean, it was lined up around the block. I was there half an hour early, half an hour before doors, and it was already lined up around the block. By the time doors opened, it was well past that, beyond sight, around the corner. Couldn't see where it was. The crowd was fantastic from the get-go. I mean, so many people came out in cosplay. It was really fun. I brought a book, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna be standing around and, you know, want something to do. I was there alone. And I ended up having to put my book away because I was just glancing up every 5 seconds, so excited to see the next person come through in their cosplay. There was at least 2 people in full green goblin face, which was, I super duper commend that. I don't know if I would have the confidence to paint myself green. And I'm glad people did, because it elevated the experience. So why should you go to these shows? Why shouldn't you? Or rather, what should you look out for if you're wondering if you should go to these shows? I thought at first, I was debating buying a ticket because it was like, am I going to get more out of sitting in a crowd watching this than I will watching it at home? And the short answer to that was yes. Being able to laugh at the same points as a bunch of other people is just really nice. And knowing that the beats that they're including in the show is not just your own weird little sense of humor. It is genuinely funny. It is genuinely fun. Seeing the whole crowd react to the stuff that you're also reacting to was a blast. So if you haven't had that sort of, you know, comedy, improv, concert type experience, it does still apply to a Dimension 20 show, which was great. Obviously, none of the stuff is canon, and I do have to say, if you like the plot of D20, or the plot of really, if you like plots in general, I think these are probably mostly all gonna be off the rails. The one I went to was off the rails. As soon as I mean, you know how insanely chaotic Emily Axford and Ali Beardsley and the rest of the players are like on the normal show.
Yes.
Okay.
A very old woman.
I got it. Well, we should take your information down. What's your name and address?
Hilda.
Hilda. Great. Got a last name, Hilda?
Hilda.
Hilda?
Oh, man.
Great. What's your address, Miss Hilda?
22 Hilda.
22 Hilda? Okay, is that Boulevard or Street? We got two in Bastion City. But you have two houses. Your name's Hilda, and you live at 22 Hilda Street and 22 Hilda Boulevard.
So imagine that, but they know they don't have to follow it up. They know there are no consequences to weird things happening to these characters, because that's the reality of it. It does, in fact, they are, in fact, way more chaotic. They somehow find room to be more unhinged than they are in regular Dimension 20, which I think was an achievement, because I watched Dimension 20 and I don't know how Brendan keeps them on track. And then I watched the show and he couldn't, really. He kind of could, but it was, you know? So if you like plots, if you like, you know, big climaxes that make a lot of sense and stories that are weaved carefully together that Brendan does really well, don't expect that, because this is A, a one-shot, and B, the players are doing basically everything they can to get off the rails. That said, if you love the unhinged nature of Dimension 20, which I personally do, that is elevated. It was more unhinged, and that, for me, and I think a lot of people in the crowd, was a great time. Some other things to note: this is pretty much all referential material. They are not building something new here. They're not really creating anything outside of Dimension 20 shows of the past. So if you are looking for an experience of something completely novel, I doubt they're ever going to do that for a live show. It's much more of a concert than it is like a West End show. Right? You're not going there to see a whole thing created before you and completed. There's not really time for that, especially not in the format of Dungeons and Dragons. That has never really been the case. One-shots are hard, right? You still have to build a character even before you come to a one-shot. So it would be really hard to do in the 2.5 hours they have. So it's all self-referential. So if you're not familiar with Dimension 20, if you've seen maybe one campaign, you're wondering, oh, should I go to this? I think you'll still have a blast. I think you're gonna probably miss a lot of the references, or probably have not seen a lot of the characters that end up being played. That said, because it's the original cast, they were only dealing with characters and settings from the games that the original cast plays. I mean, that's kind of all there is to be worried about. It's chaotic. There's not gonna probably be a super cohesive plot. But other than that, I mean, it's a blast. This group is fantastic at improvisation. I mean, I think they could genuinely do any kind of improv show and it would be very, very funny and entertaining. Obviously, they're very well practiced at the D&D format, and so that elevated it, because they know what they're doing inside the constraints of the game, let alone the fact that they're all professional performers, which really shines through. I mean, it shines through on the show, but you know, the show is edited. They're cutting between cameras. You never know what gets left out and what is sort of a super, super genuine moment and what is a moment that has been built to through careful plot and character works. And in the live show, you know that nothing can be edited, so it is very cool to see performers improvise together and build something in real time, even though what they're building, at least from what I saw, was very chaotic. It was a very fun chaotic. Okay, let's talk specifics, because I've been really trying to make my words sound vague, and I feel like I've lost something in translation in that. So let's get specific. So the tour I saw was the Time Quangle tour. Basically what that meant is that characters were taken from their setting and their timeline through a time quangle, which once again, everyone knows about, into a different setting with new characters, and then they had to figure out how to unquangle the quangle. The campaigns they were pulling from were, again, the campaigns that all of those players had played in. So it was Fantasy High, all seasons, Crown of Candy, Never After, A Starstruck Odyssey. They only played it? I gotta double check. And The Unsleeping City, which is kind of wild considering how many seasons they put out, that only the original crew has played in 5. I know the Fantasy High, there have been multiple seasons, so it is more than 5. Anyways, those were the characters they were dealing with, or the characters from those 5 campaigns, and the settings that they were pulling from. The format of it was that each player was going to randomize the character they were playing from those settings. Some of them had played multiple within a setting, so they had more than 5 characters to randomly select from. And then after everyone had selected their character, Brendan selected the setting at random again from those 5. So the characters we got were: Emily Axford played Sundry Sidney from A Starstruck Odyssey. Brian Murphy played Cugrash from Unsleeping City. Lou Wilson played Fabian Seacaster from Fantasy High. Zach Oyama started by playing Skip from A Starstruck Odyssey. Ali Beardsley played Pete the Plug from Unsleeping City, and Siobhan Thompson played Adine Abernath from Fantasy High. So you might notice all of those characters are only from 3 of the settings, leaving Never After and A Crown of Candy settings as somewhere that no character had been, which was noted when they were rolling. Brendan was like, we might end up with no natives in the setting that we come to. And we didn't. We went to Candia, and it was great. They had no idea what was going on. They immediately sided with the bad guys, and then almost as quickly switched sides, which was great. I feel like at this point, I'm just about to explain someone else's D&D campaign, which it does not come across well. I think I need to change formats a little bit. I'm just going to go with highlights, because there were some highlights. And I think they're also emblematic of the live play show and what it will be like probably most of the time they do this. One of the highlights was the very first actual role of the campaign, other than choosing their characters, which was Ali Beardsley, who, after the rest of the group had all decided on actions that were about to start a coup, very obviously in the middle of a town square, Ali Beardsley rolled to try to distract the guards from the ongoing coup. And of course, this was ridiculous because 5 people had just, to varying degrees, set off grenades and transformed into wild birds and attacked people. And so naturally, Brennan said, well, you can try, but you have to roll a nat 20. Which is basically what Ali does best. And so they rolled a nat 20 immediately, first roll. And were marked as the next heir in the line of succession, because they said, have you seen Succession, as their distraction, which was great. Another highlight was the immediate and ongoing feud between Fabian and Pete. Well, they both wanted to be crowned King of Candia, and they just ended up hating each other, which is, you know, when you're like, I wonder how this character will react to this character. It turns out these 2 characters hate each other, which is very funny, I think. It was funny. It was funny. And finally, because I know now I'm just getting excited about a show that I saw and it's someone else's D&D campaign and it doesn't really make a ton of sense or it's hard to relate to. Finally, though, I do want to just note how electric the crowd was, how much fun everyone was having. I mean, Nat 20's got huge reactions, Nat 1's got huge reactions. Each character from each introduction got a huge reaction. I mean, shout out to the London crowd. It was a blast. Also, of course, I have to speak to just how buzzing the cast was. I mean, they came out with so much energy. Murph knee-slid across the stage. Well, tried to knee-slide across the stage. Every time Brendan either rolled a nat 1 or took a bunch of damage, the whole cast got up and beat him up. It was I mean, kind of literally, but they didn't hurt him. He's fine. But they all got up out of their chairs and, you know, did the old, wow, we got you. I mean, they were the epitome of great performers. They put in a ton of energy. The crowd matched it. The crowd went wild. The cast was going wild. I mean, it was electric. And the time at which I think it was probably at its most electric is understandably at the arrival of Galir and his huge hog right at the end of the show. I don't know for sure that Brennan will put Galir in every live show in the future, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does, because I mean, he's a fan favorite, and Galir just gets a reaction. I don't know what to tell you. It was 2.5 hours from doors until close. They just took a 20-minute break in the middle, so it was about an hour, a 20-minute break, and then about an hour. They completed a storyline. It didn't make a ton of sense, but it was a blast. The cast put on a great show. The crowd was electric. I had a fantastic time. It was a great experience. If I had to make some criticisms, I'd say again, you know, because of the chaotic nature, you're not getting a very cohesive story. I actually don't know if that's a criticism or a compliment. I'd also say in terms of merch, I was quite excited about the merch. They had a tote, a poster, and a tee. And I know producing physical stuff is very expensive. It's very hard to bring stuff everywhere. So I totally get it. It's not really a disappointment. It's just sort of a point of excitement almost, that I think it would be fun if in the future they're able to expand their merch. I got a tote bag. It says Hi Intrepid Heroes. And it also says Hi Intrepid Heroes in a bunch or all of the languages of Ireland and the British Isles and the surrounding area, which is very fun. So yeah, I had a fantastic time. I really hope they keep doing live shows when they can. I know it's crazy busy and you gotta do a lot of travel, but it would be fantastic to see various casts. It'd be fantastic to see them in various locations. It'd be fantastic to see them with different formats. I don't know what the format of Gauntlet in the Garden is gonna be like, I don't think it's going to be the same as the Time Quangle. Based solely on the names, Time Quangle and Gauntlet sound drastically different, but we will see. We'll see how they pull characters, or whether they are in fact bringing new characters to the new live shows. But yeah, the long and short of it was a blast. If you're a fan of Dimension 20 and you are able to, I'd highly recommend a show. If you're not a fan of Dimension 20, not totally sure why you're here, probably become a fan of Dimension 20 first and then go to a show. I don't think going to a show will be able to drag you into the fandom, but maybe it will. Maybe it will. I've never experienced it the other way around, so who knows? And yeah, I think that's all. It was great. Maybe, yeah. Come back. Come back. Yeah, do it again. Do it again. Come back. Oh, also, 2 days later, I had a dream that I met Brennan. Anyways, I think that's everything.